Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. We're really glad and appreciative that you spend a little bit of time with us today as we continue another in the series of dialogue with the Dean. I'm Dean Eric Barker, Dean of the Purdue College of Pharmacy. And as always, please feel free to comment on this video, ask questions about it. We'll come back to it and post answers and responses to your various questions if you have them. Well, today it's a pleasure to welcome to the College of Pharmacy Dr. John Gates, who is our Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion here at Purdue. John, welcome.
Thank you,
We've
Nick.
had a chance to visit on a number of occasions. This is we found out just now this was your first actual visit to the College of Pharmacy.
Yes.
It's hard to believe, and that sort of links right into my very first question for you, which is you've been here now, and I guess it's almost really hard for me to believe. Surely hard for you to believe you've been here almost a year.
Yeah.
And so as you look back in this first year, what would you say you have learned about Purdue? What maybe has been some surprises, both maybe positives and negatives? Because I think really in this space of diversity, inclusion, honesty, and openness in terms of dialogue is really, really essential. So tell me what the first year's been like.
Well, I've learned a lot. It's been great. I'm from Gary, and so I grew up knowing of Purdue. I have a sister that is a graduate of Purdue as well, the first in my family to go to college. My sense of Purdue in coming back is that it's a great institution with lots of desire and energy around the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and that there needed to be some sense of guidance in that work. What I've come to recognize is that, yes, we are an institution that is committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have deep roots in access and equity. That is being an institution that was founded to provide opportunities for the citizens of Indiana, particularly at that time farmers. And that much of our work is embedded in our curriculum and the ethos of who we are and our core values. We do have lots of work to do, right? We do have, when you have 55,000 people in a community between faculty, staff, and students, what you wind up with is really a collection of folks that represent America in all of its manifestations. And so Purdue is a wonderful big tent for ideas and for lived experiences. And what we are attempting to do now is to coalesce around the values of the institution. And I think that's going along well.
You mentioned we've got work to do.
Yeah.
Now that you've been here a year, you've certainly had an opportunity to sort of look at the landscape of the places you just described. What are some of the key initiatives around diversity, equity, inclusion that you and your office are beginning to help lead and have conversations and sort of provide opportunity for the colleges and others, university constituents to really begin to invest in?
Sure. I've got three primary buckets that I'm concerned with. The first is faculty, student, and staff success writ large. The second one is recruitment and retention of underrepresented populations. And the third one is education and training. Among the initiatives that we have right now is something called maximizing student potential. In other places, it would be called closing achievement gaps. We don't believe that our students come with achievement gaps. They come with demonstrated potential and capacity, and it's our jobs as educators to meet them at that point of excellence and help them grow that, right? But we do have differential experiences that lead to differential outcomes, and we're working very vigorously to equalize things, right? What does a Purdue education mean is one thing that we all grapple with, but how do we graduate our students, right? We think about graduation rates as the sine qua non of what we are called to do, right? Graduate as students. But we want to ensure that our students graduate happy and whole, and affirmed and ready to meet the world with full vigor and insight, right? So the caring for students is a big deal. We will do a companion research project, intervention project to maximizing student potential called Maximizing Faculty Success. So as we look at the success trajectory of our faculty, where are, one of the questions becomes, where are there points in time when their demonstrated excellence might be truncated due to whatever vicissitudes might be present, right? And how can we impact and support them? So these are big initiatives. We spent time early in my tenure here trying to understand the core values of the institution. And we do have core values that I think are incredibly important. So among the work we're doing is the really marketing of our core values. Our core values at Purdue are honor, respect, integrity, inclusion, growth, and innovation, right? Those are values that I think hold us together as an institution. Some of the values that I wish or perhaps already occurring in the nation, what holds us together as a community. So we're looking at those things. We've developed a semester-long theme for this spring term called Democracy, Civility, and Freedom of Expression. It's really important as we lean into what will probably be a contentious election season. And we look at our core values and the positioning of the university. Indiana is often called the heartland of America. I believe we might be the heartbeat of the nation. Purdue is deeply committed to freedom of expression and to our democratic values. What we wanted to explore as a community across Greater Lafayette is, if we believe in our democracy and we believe in our freedom of expression and we want to live collectively, what is the interlocutor? We believe that's civility. So how do we come to know and speak with each other? How do we come to communicate, particularly around difficult topics? Those things we believe are important, and so we have quite a lineup of folks coming. And then the third thing that I am working on very intentionally is education and training. So inclusive pedagogy, equity training, right? People think of equity as fairness, but in the diversity and inclusion world, equity really means that we treat people differently to provide them what they need to succeed. So we're exploring, what does each person in our Purdue community need to succeed, and how can we as an institution help to deliver on those needs?
Lots of challenges there. Thank you for your leadership, and certainly this semester already, you know, it's January, we've had our first of these events in democracy, civility, and freedom of expression. A wonderful event. Lots going on campus, and for those that might be in our community or close by, I hope they'll check out the calendar of events that are coming. Great opportunities for folks within our community or a short drive to come and be part of these events throughout the semester. We were just talking before, you've got one coming up at the end of February with the children of Mahatma Gandhi, Bishop Tutu, and President Reagan.
That's right.
A tremendous lineup, and then there's other events through the semester as well, so they can check that out.
Let me just tell you a little bit about them. We are doing, across the semester, 50 democracy gatherings. They're going to be lunches, dinners, coffees, and breakfast, gatherings of 10 people who probably don't know each other, who will come together in a Jeffersonian framework to speak to the table rather than to each other in a demonstration of democracy, civility, and freedom of expression. So we hope that our alums will come and participate. February 19th, we have what you were referring to, a conversation, a panel discussion on religion, polarization, and the public space. Participating in that will be Arun Gandhi, the fifth grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, Ronald Reagan Jr., President Reagan's son, Naomi Tutu, Bishop Desmond Tutu's daughter, Reza Aslan, an internationally distinguished Iranian American scholar of religion, and I got notes here, and Amy Goodman, host, moderator of Democracy Now!, will be the moderator for that evening. On March 10, we have a special concert happening. The Purdue Glee Club, the famous Purdue Glee Club, will be in concert with the famous Morehouse College Glee Club. So people from different backgrounds with shared commitment to music coming together. I think that's going to be really wonderful. March 3rd, President Daniels will host for us an armchair conversation with former Senators Evan Bayh and Joe Lieberman on no labels, no political labels, crossing the divides, as it were. March 31st is a very special event on the role of the press in Democracy Now! Participating in that will be columnist Bill Kristol, NPR host Mara Liasson, Juan Williams from Fox News. We've just booked, can't think of his name, but New York Times seminal writer, and Soledad O'Brien will be the moderator. And then, Charles Blow is the name I was trying to remember. And then we close the semester on April 8th with something called Purdue in One Room. We'll bring together 500 people from across our community and Greater Lafayette to engage in a set of seminal conversations on our democracy, civility, and freedom of expression, and the role of Purdue and Greater Lafayette in helping to shape, if not the context of America, over the next few months, the context of how we live together as Americans over the next few months.
One of the things we do in these videos is give the guests a chance to ask me a question or two. Maybe you've got a question for me.
I do. So, I talk to people, and when I say to folks, I've got a group of deans that really support diversity, not only support it, are my go-to people. And I always call the name Eric Barker. How did you come to be so engaged in valuing and working to move the needle on diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Wow, that's an interesting question. And if I really reflect, John, I would say it's about a commitment that goes back to values, right? And in our upbringings, our experiences inform us, I think, in terms of our values, and ultimately then those values dictate what we do. And at some level, it's a commitment to social justice. For me, a deep-rooted one that it's about doing the kinds of things that we ought to do as a democracy, as a civilization, as a culture, and being committed to those things. And so it's very important to me as I've seen injustices. It's a lens that growing up in a town, my birth town in Southern Illinois, the high school where my father taught, did not graduate an African American until the 1980s.
Wow.
This is a town that is butted up next to East St. Louis. So I grew up watching tremendous segregation and attitudes and behaviors of those that I went to school with that just seemed incongruent with a value system. And so I think those begin to inform you. So coming to a place like Purdue, there's a real opportunity, I think, to move the needle, because we're a place where we can drive dialogue and conversations that are really, really important to getting our students, our faculty, our staff, providing opportunity and thinking along these lines and respecting diversity, thinking about what we do intentionally and deliberately to be inclusive and drive equity in what we do. And just it's about being deliberate. And so I think it becomes a personal commitment and the values that drive you.
You've heard me say that, as you well know, there are many forms of diversity, right? There's representational diversity we often think about in terms of race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, and the like. There is diversity of thought, there's geographic diversity, all of those things, and that diversity is intersectional. That is, one thing meets with the other and presents a mosaic. My diversity is multifold, and so what I'm going to ask you to do is to think about yours, right? We define diversity at Purdue under my leadership as excellence expressing itself through the intersections of perspectives and lived experiences. Hence, we're all diverse in some ways, and that diversity is equally powerful and viable. My diversity I contextualize as I'm black, I'm a man, I'm gay, I'm a father, a grandfather, a scholar, an activist, and most days a nice guy, right? So it really is that I'm John.
Yeah.
What's your diversity?
It's an interesting question, right? Because, and I think again, coming from a perspective of a white middle-class American, who that's how I grew up, right? Son of two teachers. I would, what are the categories or the labels that we begin to think about add up to those life experiences? And so, I probably gravitate to things like father, husband, scientist. So there's a perspective, I think, that as a training as a neuroscientist and a pharmacologist, healthcare professional. My original training as a pharmacist, and what that means in terms of how we think about caring for people. But I think there's other, I've had other, diversity in my background. Musician, right? I always played in a community orchestra. I was a violist, and until we moved here 20 years ago, as a graduate student, as a pharmacy student, I was always in an orchestra somewhere, and that expression of music was really, really important to me. My mother was a music teacher. I've been very active in our church wherever we've been, and so that's part of my diversity too, lens. So it's that amalgam of experiences, to your point, that I look at that, oh yeah, there's that piece that drives that interest. That's, I've always been fascinated with people like Ben Franklin, right? Who, if you look at his career, was tremendously diverse, and always was doing new things. And the some of his experiences was very fascinating to me. Is how someone in an era, we sort of take it for granted now because we can do so many different things. We can learn about so many different things. Information is so accessible. Experiences are because we can travel. I can be on the other side of the world tomorrow.
We have the internet now.
Right, and we have this, and yet there are people like Benjamin Franklin, who in the 1700s was able to, in a very deliberate way, gathered all these experiences, and that informed him. And so, I think probably there's a scholar in here too, in terms of my diversity, and hopefully thinker and leader, and having that opportunity to hopefully influence how things go.
I think that's probably among the beauties of this conversation that I hope alumni and our friends will take away. Here we are, two people who come from different backgrounds, who look quite different from one another, whose diversity is different and complementary, right? But the essence of who we are is a shared humanity. Hopefully, without being Pollyanna, the work that we do at Purdue will uplift people who are marginalized, embrace people who are not and who may be in the majority. Extend welcome to people whose views we don't agree with. Include absolutely everyone all the time, right? As a core value of who we are as a community. Diversity, the promise of diversity, I believe, is available to us all. It is really the promise of America. And that's why we're doing democracy, civility, and freedom of expression, and why I'm so happy to have had this conversation with you two.
Well, our college is committed. We've said this from the beginning, whether it be in our curriculum, our co-curriculum activities, and in our culture. So in our curriculum, ensuring that our students who are going to be healthcare professionals, but they're also going to be citizens, are developing their cultural intelligence as much as they're working on their knowledge base and their emotional intelligence. So we have done things deliberately in the curricular space, co-curricular, providing the community of support. There's a variety of programming we're doing to think about students and what they need, faculty and staff, what they need. And lastly, it's ultimately embedded in the culture of the place. And it starts with understanding where we're at, being honest about that, having open dialogues like we're having, and then think about where we want to be, and again, the kinds of things that we ought to do. But at the end of the day, what are our values? And we're going to circle back to those and say, if these are our values, then this is what we're committed to. And that's really what we're going to do as a college.
Purdue Pharmacy rocks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership.
Well, we're very blessed with extraordinary faculty, staff, students, and alumni. So, John, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If you have questions or want to make comments, please do so. We'll come back to these and post responses as you do that. And with that, again, a big thank you to John. We look forward to these events. If you have a chance, just Google Purdue Democracy, Civility, and Freedom of Expression. You'll find all of the events. Join us on campus, and we'd love to see you. Again, thanks for being with us. And as always, hail Purdue and boiler up.